Have you ever wondered what Christmas looked like during one of the darkest moments in history? I mean real Christmas, when letters from home were treasures, the world was in ruins, and hope seemed fragile. Yet people still found ways to share joy. Christmas during World War II wasn't about abundance. It was about connection, humanity, and small acts that reminded people they were alive and not forgotten. Tonight, I want to share a story of three people separated by distance and circumstance, yet united by the spirit of giving. So wherever you are, with family, with friends, or just with your thoughts, take a breath, settle in, and let me tell you a Christmas tale. Our first story takes us to Bastogne, Belgium, December 1944. The cold had settled into the ground days ago. Private James Miller crouched in his foxhole, boots sunk deep into frozen mud. His uniform was stiff with damp, his fingers barely moving inside worn gloves. Every breath came out white and heavy. It was Christmas Eve. James hadn't written home in weeks, not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't bear the thought of his words never arriving. In his rucksack, wrapped carefully in a pair of socks, was a small tin of chocolate. James opened it slowly. The smell alone felt like another world. He thought, I can't eat this all myself, not tonight. Without a word, he broke the chocolate into uneven pieces and passed them along the line. Cold hands reached out. Quiet nods followed. One piece went to Sergeant Thomas Reed, sitting beside him. A thin scar crossed Thomas's cheek, still red from a fight weeks earlier. He looked older than his years, as though the war had pressed its weight into his face and refused to lift it. James leaned closer and whispered, "Merry Christmas, even here." Thomas took a bite, closed his eyes for just a moment, then he smiled. And for that brief pause in the snow, with the forest silent and the guns distant, the war loosened its grip, just a little. Our second story takes us to London, England, December 1944. The city was dark long before evening. Blackout curtains were pulled tight, windows dimmed to slivers of light. Christmas that year had learned how to whisper. Margaret Hughes sat at her small kitchen table, a single candle burning beside her. The room smelled faintly of soap and boiled vegetables. Outside, the distant thrum of aircraft passed overhead, familiar enough now to almost fade into the background. Almost. On the table lay ration books, scraps of brown paper, and a length of string she'd saved for weeks. She was tired, more than tired, but her hands kept moving. Tomorrow was Christmas. Her husband was somewhere in France. Her last letter from him was creased thin from being unfolded too many times. She read it again anyway, tracing his handwriting like it might steady her. Don't worry about me. Make sure the children smile. Margaret looked toward the corner of the room where a small tree stood, uneven, barely decorated. A few paper chains, 2 tin stars cut from an old biscuit tin. She wrapped the gifts slowly. Nothing impressive. A knitted scarf made from leftover wool. A wooden toy repaired rather than replaced. She wondered briefly if it was enough. In the morning, her children woke before dawn. They didn't comment on what was missing. They didn't seem to notice what wasn't there. Her youngest held up the scarf and said, "Mum, did you make this?" Margaret nodded. He smiled like it was the best thing in the world. In that moment, with the kettle warming, the candles still burning, and the city holding its breath, Margaret felt it. Not happiness, something quieter. The feeling that even now, even here, Christmas had found a way in. Our third story takes us to a prisoner of war camp in Germany, December 1944. The barracks were colder at night, the kind of cold that crept in slowly, settling into bones and refusing to leave. Pierre Lambert sat on the edge of his bunk, a scrap of wood balanced on his knee. It had once been part of a crate. Now it was becoming something else. Pierre's hands were thin, cracked from work and cold. Every movement hurt, but he worked carefully, shaping the wood with a dull blade he wasn't really supposed to have. He thought of his daughter. Not clearly, her face had blurred with time, but he remembered the way she used to hold toys close to her chest, as if they might disappear if she didn't. He carved a small horse. Across from him sat Henry Collins, an English soldier, watching quietly. They didn't talk much. Language made things complicated. Silence, oddly enough, did not. When Pierre finished, he held the horse out, an offering. No explanation. Henry hesitated, then took it. He turned it over in his hands, thumb brushing the rough edges. "Thank you," he said softly. Pierre nodded. For a moment, neither of them were prisoners. They were just two men, far from home, sharing something that didn't belong to the war. That night, the camp was unusually still. Somewhere, someone began to hum a carol. Others joined in, not loudly, not confidently, but enough to be heard. Across Europe, similar acts were happening. Soldiers shared chocolate, mothers improvised gifts, prisoners carved toys. And for a few hours, the world felt a little warmer. These moments were not heroic in the way history books remember battles. They were quiet, human, and profoundly simple. But that's exactly what made them unforgettable. Maybe that's what Christmas really is. Even when the world is broken, even when we're cold, far from home, or scared, a small act of kindness, a gift given without expectation, a word spoken from the heart, can create warmth that lasts. It doesn't need to be grand, it just needs to be shared. Thank you for spending this moment with me. Wherever you are and however you celebrate, this Christmas, remember, even the smallest gestures, a chocolate, a note, a moment of attention, can carry joy farther than we imagine. Wherever you are and whoever you're with, I wish you warmth, peace, and quiet magic. Merry Christmas to you all, and thank you for listening.